Hello everyone, welcome back to another Metal Gear Solid battle analysis video to determine who is the hardest boss out of some of the games in the series. Last time we started with Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater.
Can't even eat a snake during a mission, huh?
I wouldn't mind eating you.
Are you saying you want to have my baby?
It's so hard.
Oh.
Yeah, right there. Let me have some more.
What did we just witness? Anyway, check out the previous video before if you want to see the results and feel free to disagree. So as requested by a good friend of mine I've actually never met, who recommended we go for one of the most iconic games in the series of Metal Gear Solid. That really makes you question your very existence.
Who am I really?
You're a big boss.
Of course, it's none other than Metal Gear Solid 2.
It's time to start the party! That's Metal Gear Solid!
This is a C4 bomb.
Why am I the only one that can't die? You punish me enough.
My name is Pliskin. No! That is not Iroquois Pliskin.
Raiden, are you receiving? I need 61 scissors. Give me the fucking scissors.
So in this video will be the same as before. We will determine who truly is the most hardest boss in the game, as well as deciding who would be the most toughest boss out of Dead Cell if they was to face each other. Now I'm aware that Olga isn't a part of Dead Cell, but still, why not count her in?
Can you imagine the smell?
Good.
But she is the leader of the Glukovich units that occupy the big shell and definitely are the cream of the cream of the crop.
It was nothing. All clear.
Yeah, baby.
There was nothing wrong. Everything is all right.
And yes, we're going to be playing on extreme mode because we need to squeeze every ounce of challenge out of these bosses. So Conflict and Victory were Olga's parents, but Big Boss was Snake's. This gal doesn't even come close to our legacy. If you ask me, she probably is the easiest boss in the game. She's reckless, and honestly, she shouldn't even be fighting. She's literally carrying a baby who, fun fact, ends up saving the world.
Need I remind you that you are carrying my grandchild?
The fight itself is pretty straightforward. There's plenty of cover and you can easily pop in and out using the lean functions to land a sneaky shot. A lot of the time, Olga isn't even looking in your direction, making it easy to pick her off. First thing you'll want to do is shoot out that light because it's blinding. Her patterns are simple enough to figure out, and the only real challenge is when she shoots the tarp, but even then, a well-timed lean will line up an easy shot.
Whoever you are, you're not stopping us.
See, as you could tell, I clearly messed up there. You meant to fire her on the rebound, but I completely missed. All that really matters is that when you land a well-timed shot using the lean, and just stating the obvious like any other boss is just getting used to the AI patterns to make the fight a lot easier.
Incredible.
Okay now, so we come to Fortune, and let's just say on extreme mode it's pure madness. So of course, as many of you Metal Gear fans know, bullets don't touch her, so don't waste your ammo is the whole idea. But unlike the easier difficulties, extreme mode is completely unforgiving. Instead of dodging the occasional railgun shot, Fortune fires that thing like it's a machine gun this time round, and it's literally non-stop. Just moving around isn't enough, and forget about pulling off those cool cartwheels because Fortune goes hard, tearing apart every bit of cover until there's absolutely nothing left but dust. It's worth mentioning too, unlike the easier difficulties, that the duration of this battle actually goes on for far much longer than it should. And you may as well forget about the elevator because I'm pretty sure it's fucking jammed. But anyway, this becomes a serious problem because that railgun, Yeah, it can one-shot you almost every time, and since MGS2 doesn't let you crouch walk, something that would be essential for surviving this fight, standing around just isn't an option when all your cover is gone. But if you love boxes just like me truly, you probably grabbed one beforehand, and trust me, you'd be thanking yourself, because what this essentially does is let you crouch walk, meaning any incoming attacks in front of you won't even touch you. Honestly, it's bizarre to even call this a boss battle because we can't actually deplete Fortune's health, just like the Sorrow, except, you know, one's alive and the other's very dead. Now we have the fattest man in the world, Fatman. Yep, it's none other than the craziest bomb fanatic in the world who was making nukes as a kid, and whose idea of a good time is blowing stuff up whilst roller skating about. Honestly, even on this difficulty, he's really not that hard to beat. He just plants more bombs than usuals, and that's about it. Usually at the very beginning he plants about 2 and you get over 20 seconds in order to chase him down and bring down as much of his health as possible. Of course you have to defuse the bombs before they blow in the last 10 seconds, because the exercise would have ended right there, which seems kind of contradictory to the S3 plan, and everybody would have been dead.
Nope. Nope.
In the making of this video, I was suffering from extreme cognitive issues, so please do bear with me.
The Makarov carries 8.
Now, occasionally he pulls out his Glock 18 machine gun pistol, but not nearly enough to be a real threat. The strategy is pretty much what every MGS fan does. Just stick to him like glue and blast him with the USP or the M9, knocking his ass to the ground, and if you've got enough ammo, you can just rinse and repeat this tactic. Honestly, he's really not that much of a challenge at all, since you can usually keep up with him and see exactly where he's placing the bombs. It looks like the party's over for Fatman.
Oh no. I've nothing to wear to the party. The party's over for you.
Now we have Solidus Part 1, or more specifically Solidus in a harrier jet, if that even counts. Either way, it's Solidus trying to one-up his brother Liquid, flying a jet with a little help from Vamp. At the start of this battle, it's crucial to land as many stinger shots as possible, because of course we want to take this bird out the sky as fast as possible. You guys usually know the drill. Solidus flies off to admire some hentai, and then comes back with a barrage of bullets that delete most of your health. Usually this means the next attack will definitely kill you if you get caught. Some like to hide behind the structure or jump off the ledge just before the attack lands, trying to squeeze in a shot before doing so. After that, Solidus does some laps around the big shell, giving you a chance to blast him with even more rockets. Solidus suffers from main antagonist syndrome and likes to drop a big bomb.
You're tougher than I thought!
Before flying off again like a little bitch.
I'll let you go out in style!
Normally you jump off the ledge to avoid the "go out in style" bombs, but to speed things up, run to the lower floor. If you haven't depleted much of his health, he'll try to burn you with the thrusters, but staying at the bottom stops that immediately. So at this stage, he usually is either going to hit you with a barrage of missiles or machine gun fire, both of which can clearly kill you instantly. It's definitely challenging if you don't know where to position yourself. For example, when he fires rockets, some people run up and down the stairs. But that's not a reliable tactic on this difficulty. Instead, standing on the left side of the big shell behind the barrier acts as the perfect shield to avoid everything. All different kinds of attacks. So some MGS boss fights have different phases, and this one has quite a few. Once his health is low enough, Solidus just repeats the same attacks, giving you a solid window to fire back. Overall, it's not the hardest boss by any means, but it's brutal if you mess up. One mistake can cost you big time. Not the easiest, but definitely not the hardest. So it's none other than Vamp, the guy who suffers from PTSD from getting shot in the head. He's technically not a vampire, but he practically is. But let's just say he has a questionable habit of licking things off himself, aside from blood. In this battle, there's an exploit that makes him one of the easiest bosses in the game, just like some in MGS3. You can stun lock him using melee attacks, and even if he breaks out, you can just put him right back into it and rinse and repeat. If you're lucky and stay close enough to avoid his knife, you can completely take him out in one go. But we're not here to do that, because that's far too easy. We're going to fight him in this battle as intended, since Konami and should have programmed him to be way more smarter. Let me tell you, it was by far the hardest boss fight ever doing it this way. One of the best ways to take him down properly is to shoot out all the lights, because Vamp has the ability to trap your shadow with his knife, completely freezing you in place. Don't ask why, it's just Metal Gear logic. If you're lucky and accurate enough, you can land a perfect headshot or on his abdomen right where Raiden shot him earlier on in the game. These do double the damage of regular shots, and then usually he will jump out of the water like a demented fish and lands on the balcony. At this stage he's relatively easy to hit, and you can land about 2 shots before the third one where he throws several knives at you. Luckily these can be avoided by standing directly underneath him. Then he jumps back into the water, giving you a window to hit him with some rockets, forcing him out faster. Some players jump the railings to avoid his close quarters attacks, but if you're brave enough you can land 1 or 2 extra shots depending on his health gauge. This takes you into a different phase of the fight. At this point, Vamp usually jumps out of the water and sticks to the wall like Spider-Man, giving you a single shot opportunity. But from here, he gets way faster, jumping across the balcony and moving from one side of the other map to the other about 3 times. During this phase, he throws his knife so fast that all you can do is dodge. Landing attacks is just way too risky. Then comes the final phase, the one that can ruin all your progress. Vamp goes into full-on frenzy mode, bouncing between the balcony and the floor while throwing a storm of knives. This part was insanely tough because you have to be ridiculously quick and popping shots off whenever you get the slightest opening. Now we make it to the leader of Dead Cell himself, George Sears, aka Solidus, the president you should definitely vote for next term, because his plans to destroy censorship and restore freedom of speech are exactly what the world deserves. In this battle, it's all swords and no guns, so making use of the blade is definitely key. Since Solidus has lost his eye, you can use this to your advantage by quickly trying to get behind him or attacking on his blind side. Out of all the bosses, Solidus has the most impressive combination of attacks. Aside from his 2 katana swipes, he throws in some karate kicks to throw you off. The trick to fighting Solidus is to get in and out after each attack. When he gets overwhelmed, he uses his boosters, leaving behind a trail of fire. It's usually just a tactic to throw you off, but it's quite easy to avoid. So obviously you do need to get close to him, and occasionally he'll use the tentacles on his suit to grab you and throw you in the air or swipe at your legs. It can come from either direction, but if your reflexes are quick enough you can dodge and counter. There are plenty of opportunities to attack Solidus, you just need to position yourself correctly. A lot of the time when he's overwhelmed he'll use missile attacks from his tentacles. These are much harder to avoid on extreme difficulty, so it's easier to hang near the George Washington statue where there's a bit of elevation to block the incoming missiles from knocking you off. And for the final stage, he sheds his robot arms and just goes full on ridiculous, using his thrusters to dash around the map. After the second or third dash, you'll want to move out of the way because he'll move straight for you with a devastating attack. But charging back in after that gives you the perfect opportunity to counter. He's much more vicious at this point, moves quicker, but he is also a lot more open for defeat and counters. Just like Vamp, if you don't respond quickly towards the end of the fight, Solidus can make you really pay for it, but if you're quick enough, you can really use it in your favour. Now is the moment of truth as the ranking box arrives to decide who I think is the toughest boss battle at a Dead Cell, and other characters ranking them based on the challenge using a tier system. Of course, this is all subjective, so you don't have to agree with it, but feel free to let me know your thoughts because I'd love to hear who you found the most challenging. After thinking it through, I've decided that Vamp takes the top spot as the most difficult. His attack patterns become more unpredictable and relentless as the battle goes on, making him a real challenge to defeat. It was a close call between him and Solidus, but Vamp's difficulty spikes in a way that puts him above the rest. Second place goes to Solidus in the Harrier. The fight is brutal, and if you don't know how to avoid his attacks, and the combination of machine gun fire and missiles and his overwhelming presence makes for a tough encounter. Right behind that, I'd rank the final Solidus battle with the swords. While challenging, there is always ways to predict his movements, and mastering the blade can make this fight more manageable. Next is Fortune, because while she seems nearly impossible to hit due to her electromagnetic technology, deflecting bullets, evading her attacks is the real difficulty. Without the cardboard box trick, of course. Dodging her barrages is a challenge in itself. Fatman comes after that. He isn't particularly difficult since you can practically rush him, but his bomb placements can create serious pressure if you don't defuse them quickly, and these unpredictable patterns can make it hard to determine. If he was smarter in direct combat, he'd rank higher, but his reliance on explosive make him easier to handle with the right approach. Finally, at the bottom of the list is Olga. She doesn't pose much of a challenge compared to the others. There's plenty of cover, and her attack patterns are predictable, giving ample opportunities to take her down. With that being settled, let's take this ranking one step further. If these bosses was to face each other, who would be the most dominant and why? Given on what we know about their abilities, strengths and weaknesses, this really could be an interesting battle to analyse, so let's do it. So I believe Fatman is the first to die. His bombs are useless and they are triggered by a countdown, and in close quarters combat without any real defensive abilities, he doesn't really stand a chance in a face-to-face. He may be a genius with explosives, but when faced with adversaries like Olga, Fortune, Vamp and Solidus, who are all way faster and perhaps stronger and vastly more skilled. However, it's all circumstantial, but we're talking in a head-to-head battle. Hypothetically speaking, Fatman could have eliminated absolutely everybody in the big shell because no one really had any idea about his bombs, aside from Peter Stillman, Raiden and Snake. I mean, I tell a bit of a lie because Fortune and Vamp had their suspicions that Fatman had gone rogue, as well as Solidus, who had his suspicions on Fatman as well. Of course, none of them actively went out their way to try and disarm the bombs. It's almost as because if they didn't even know they was there. And if Raiden didn't put out the bomb in strut A, there's actually a good chance that the big shell could have been compromised, killing several hostages and several other characters in the game who unknowingly would have fell with the big shell. Because the small bombs that Raiden defused would activate a bigger bomb that could have ended everybody's lives, including Fatman, who didn't care about dying because he'd have gone down as being one of the most prolific mad bombers, and would have gone in the history books. So that's what gives Fatman an edge, but in terms of face-to-face, I don't think he would win.
If the boy had allowed the big shell to be destroyed, this exercise would have ended there. The project has no room for failures.
He's completely outmatched. Say for instance if Olga uses the cyborg ninja suit, would eliminate him effortlessly, with enhanced strength, speed and agility. Fortune could take him out with a railgun, tearing through any cover he tries to use, and Vamp's supernatural abilities and sheer speed would overwhelm him before he even gets the chance to set up any traps. And Solidus, he wouldn't even waste a second executing him with his advanced weaponry and skills. I just believe Fatman simply doesn't last long in this fight. Next to fall is Fortune. While she's immune to bullets thanks to her cutting-edge technology given by Ocelot, it doesn't make her invulnerable to sword or explosions. Ocelot practically reveals himself that her ability is purely technological, meaning it wouldn't protect her from high-frequency blades or physical attacks.
This is the little gizmo. There's no such thing as miracles or the supernatural, only cutting-edge technology.
If her device could block melee attacks, she might have a chance, but that's not the case. Her heavy railgun, whilst devastating, limits her mobility against opponents like Olga, Vamp and Solidus, who have the superhuman agility through augmentations or nanomachines, and close the gap in seconds. She's an easy target, essentially. There's no doubt that Fortune is Lady Luck. As demonstrated, she had the capabilities to be able to move incoming missiles that were projected straight towards her. So if Solidus tried to use his missiles, that would be completely ineffective. Vamp's knife throwing and Solidus' missiles and thrusters and Olga's ninja-like speed would be too much. Her railgun might destroy cover, but it won't stop enemies who can outmaneuver her. Fortune goes down second. Now, things get a bit more interesting. It comes down to Olga, Vamp and Solidus. In a direct fight, I believe Olga's cyborg ninja suit grants her incredible reflexes and a high-frequency sword capable of cutting through anything. She has durability, speed and skill on her side, but Vamp is no ordinary opponent. His superhuman agility and ability to walk on water and regenerative abilities make him a nightmare to put down because of his nanomachines. Even if Olga lands a devastating blow, he can recover and keep fighting. The battle would be fast-paced clash of blades and speed, but there's one problem. I don't think Olga really knows about Vamp's regeneration, and even if she does she truly know how to defeat him? The lack of knowledge costs her the fight, I'd say. And not just that, because Vamp has the ability to be able to read human movement before they've even made the next move, which would be very costly for Olga.
Human muscles are quite eloquent. They speak out clearly what a person's next move will be. They even tell me which way a gun is going to be pointed before the trigger is pulled. But your muscles, they're different.
Now we're left with the final showdown, Vamp versus Solidus. This is where things get truly intense. Both are incredibly skilled, both have enhancements that make them superior fighters, and both have proven themselves as some of the most dangerous fighters in Metal Gear history. Vamp relies on his supernatural abilities and nanomachines enhanced skills, while Solidus' pure military experience, firepower and Big Boss's warrior genes. Solidus is one of the deadliest fighters in the series. Unlike Vamp, he doesn't rely on regeneration, he relies on sheer skill and overwhelming power, and his suit. He can fight at long range with tentacle missiles and mid-range with katana slashes, and close quarters with brutal hand-to-hand combat. His suit is bulletproof and his reflexes are elite. If Vamp tries to throw knives, Solidus has plenty of ways to block them with his tentacles, swords and armour. His weapons give him an edge in versatility, allowing him to attack from multiple angles. Vamp, while faster, would have to rely on wearing Solidus down over time. But that's where the issue lies. Solidus is more than aware of Vamp's regenerative abilities, I believe. He wouldn't make the mistake of assuming Vamp is dead. If Solidus gets the opportunity, he would go for a decapitation, knowing that Vamp's nanomachines can't bring him back if his head is gone. To ensure victory, Solidus would likely use his missiles to obliterate Vamp's body completely, leaving no chance for recovery and healing from nanomachines. And that's how Solidus becomes the last one standing. Vamp puts up an incredible fight, but Solidus' experience, firepower and tactical mind secure him the win. So, there you have it. Fatman falls first, followed by Fortune, then Olga, with the final battle coming down to Vamp and Solidus, and in the end, Solidus Snake claims victory. But what do you guys think? Who do you believe would win in this scenario? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button because it helps reach more Metal Gear Solid fans, and if you're new, consider subscribing if you love Metal Gear Solid or anything related to Konami and Kojima. I'm the Voice Box, and until we meet again.